Hi, OC Valley. This is Jesse again. So today we're going to be talking with Colton Doremus with the Lewiston Local 1773 Fire Department. We are going to be talking about a couple different things, and the main thing today is how the city of Lewiston is not keeping up with their agreement with the local chapter and the union. So I would like to introduce Colton, and there you are.
Hi.
So, hello. So I guess you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your position. And yeah.
Yeah, so my name's Colton Doremus. I'm the communications director for Lewiston Firefighters Local 1773 here in Lewiston, Idaho. I've been a firefighter since 2019, started out volunteer, made the bridge over to career fire department in 2022. I'm a firefighter paramedic with the city of Lewiston and currently work on Medic 7-3.
Nice. So today we're kind of brought here, you wanted to get the word out to the public about what's actually going on behind the scenes a little bit. And it pretty much whatever you're allowed to tell us, you know, feel free and we'll kind of go from there. So do you want to start with the, like kind of the beginning, what happened during the negotiation process, or, you know, what binding arbitration happened, or, you know?
Yeah, so Lewiston firefighters are coming to the close of our collective labor agreement with the city of Lewiston. This is an agreement that sets our wages and stuff like that. It is a collaborative effort between Lewiston firefighters and the city of Lewiston, and it's an agreement that is contractually binding for both parties. We recently started negotiations earlier this year. We reached an impasse during our negotiations, but we were able to close on every open article in our contract except for our wages. That is that's where we had the impasse. This impasse was sent before a third-party fact-finding panel. This panel was comprised of one member from representing Lewiston Fire Department, Local 773, and then also the city of Lewiston, and one common ground individual.
Okay, so if we kind of start there with this arbitrage, and what were the specific terms kind of agreed upon by both the city of Lewiston and the union regarding the binding arbitration? Like, what were those terms? Were they documented in writing, agreed upon? And you have records of those?
Yes, so the binding fact-finding was agreed upon in our previous contract with the city. So we are still operating underneath that contract, so the binding fact-finding decision is contractually an obligation for both the city of Lewiston and the Lewiston firefighters.
And they're enforceable by law, right?
So that is where the catch is. The city of Lewiston is stating that this is not a legal option. Although the state statutes mention fact-finding decisions, there is no mention of it being a binding fact-finding decision.
So even if it's held with a third-party fact finder or an or a mediator, then, and they agree to do this mediation process, they don't necessarily have to agree to the outcome.
Exactly. That's where the city's stance is. In the Lewiston firefighters, Local 1773, our stance is that the state statutes set the floor for the law, and that any additional stipulations in the contract are completely legal, and they were signed upon by the city manager and the Lewiston Firefighters Union.
Okay. And the city manager, does Lewiston have a mayoral? I forgot how to say that. Are they run by a mayor, or are they run by a city manager?
We're currently under a strong mayor form of government. When our but our previous contract was signed, we were still under the city manager form of government.
Okay. What justification or explanation has the city given, or have they just ghosted you?
We haven't sat down at the negotiating table since we reached or entered into that fact-finding process, and we have had very little contact with the city since that decision was given to us. It seems that the city has no intent of implementing all three stipulations from that fact-finding decision.
Has the city taken this approach in prior negotiations with unions, or is this like the first time it's happened?
Historically, Lewiston firefighters and the city of Lewiston have been able to reach mutual agreements through collaborative efforts during our negotiations. To the extent that the situation we're facing right now is a first.
Do do you feel like there's an individual or group of individuals that are stifling this agreement, or is it governmental? Is it like a checks and balances thing stopping it from happening, or is it individuals stopping it from happening?
No one person or party would be to blame for this. Like I said, this is a stipulation in our contract for when we come to an impasse during negotiations. Both the Lewiston firefighters and the city of Lewiston have been forthcoming, open, and honest. Our negotiating meetings were public, so there hasn't been any, what we feel, dishonesty, but we do feel that the city has wronged Lewiston's firefighters by not honoring their contractual agreement with the firefighters.
Are they blaming it on money, financial?
Yeah, so with the binding fact-finding agreement, there was a prolonged period where they were in deliberation, essentially. The city had set their budget prior to receiving the decision of the fact-finding panel. The stipulation that was decided upon in the fact-finding panel was our medical retirement benefits. This benefit cost the city $45,000 a year, while the fire department drives in $3.4 million in revenue. This greatly offsets the cost of our wages as well as our benefits package.
Right, and that benefits package, that did the arbiters outline why they ruled in favor of a 4%? Because I think the union's 4% increase, did they say why that they agreed to a 4% and keeping the medical instead of raising, like, say, 14% in wages and keeping the medical?
Unfortunately, those deliberations are closed, so we don't know their reasoning, but both the city and the union had given their case to that panel, and that panel, like I said, is third party. They take into consideration the city's budget, financial constraints on the city, as well as a proper wage increase given the cost of living adjustments.
What legal recourses does the union have in response to the city's refusal to uphold the agreement? So I know you said the city takes it as they don't have to. Mm-hmm. Is there any legal recourses that you can take to persuade the city to abide by them?
We're still working with legal counsel through the International Association of Firefighters to figure out a map for the future.
Okay. So let's go back to, like, the wages and compensation stuff. Mm-hmm. How does the current wage structure for Lewiston firefighters compare to other smaller cities in Idaho, and basically in the region, Idaho, Washington, this area? Mm-hmm. What specific metrics were used in the wage study? Did they let you know to determine what the wages should be? Yeah.
So the wage study that we mentioned in our press release is given. I will set how we come to those numbers. So the city of Lewiston gave Lewiston Local 1773 a list of comparable cities, population size, fire department size, call volume, essentially that. We narrowed it down to what would be the true comparables, which are a little closer to what the city of Lewiston is. Mm-hmm. I would like to remind people that these comparable cities were given to the union by the city of Lewiston. This wage study was broken down by firefighters' salaries, taking into account promotional wage increases as well as seniority wage increases, so what we call step increases throughout a firefighter's career. This number, throughout the whole wage study, Lewiston firefighters are roughly 12% lower than the median of those comparable cities.
Wow. And I caught that you said that Lewiston provided the cities in question. Was that part of the deal? Was the union not allowed to also do their own research and provide?
We provide input. Unfortunately, in our area, there's a very limited number of true comparable cities. So the city of Lewiston and the Lewiston firefighters agreed on that list of comparable cities.
What would you say? So you said that one of the reasons that you believe is a financial reason. What would you say are the financial impacts of the proposed 4% wage increase and keeping the medical on the city, on their city budget? Do you think how does this compare to the costs of litigation itself? Like, is it more to litigate than it would be just to accept the wage increase?
Yes. So currently, right now, The MERP benefit costs the city $45,000 per year. That includes every firefighter underneath the contract. I don't have a total number for what the litigations would cost, but it's going to be drastically more expensive than the wage increases and keeping that MERP benefit.
Right. Here's kind of an interesting question, just to give the listeners an idea. What are the starting wages for Lewiston Reserve firefighters? And how do these wages compare to those offered by other nearby departments or even non-emergency entities?
Yeah, so Lewiston Reserve firefighters make a trainee's wage, which is comparable to, it's actually less than most of the region's, what would we consider fast food or entry-level positions. These firefighters undergo lots of schooling and training, and they're just not compensated fairly, comparable to other entry-level positions in the city of Lewiston.
What other incentives, if any, has the city of Lewiston offered to attract or retain firefighters amidst a staffing crisis? Because you guys are in a staffing crisis almost.
The Lewiston Fire Department, Lewiston Local 1773, would consider that we are in a staffing crisis. Unfortunately, I don't know that the city of Lewiston would have the same opinion on this.
So, in the city's opinion, they think you're staffed enough and you don't need any more resources.
Yeah, the city is currently using overtime personnel to fill vacancies or overtime shift caused by prolonged injury and lack of reserve firefighters.
Isn't there a contingency plan somewhere that says it must retain so many firefighters or so many non-emergency or emergency staff in the backup?
So we currently have 16 firefighters on shift each day. We have 3 shifts, A, B, and C. This meets the National Fire Protection Agency standard, or the national standard for how many firefighters should be on shift for the population size of Lewiston, Idaho. Unfortunately, we are minimally staffed, so we're right at that 16. That means that if one firefighter was able to, or was going to take vacation that day, or we have a firefighter sick, that falls onto overtime personnel, so people that are not going to get off shift when they're supposed to. They could be forced or mandatory overtime, which means that they are not getting needed rest and recovery, or it's going to be people that are off shift and already at home that are called back in to take those overtime shifts.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the retirement medical benefits package that they wanted to get rid of. Why does the city want to eliminate, or why did the city want to eliminate the retirement medical benefits for firefighters? What cost savings were they thinking, or advantages did the city have for arguing against this?
Yeah, so the continuation of the MERP, or our medical retirement payments, was a stipulation of our binding fact-finding decision. So that means that per our last labor agreement that this is the decision that needs to be made. All 3 of the stipulations need to be implemented in the union's opinion. The city has other opinions on this. What the MERP is it is a medical expense retirement plan, specifically for firefighters through the Washington State Firefighter Council. This is a $75 per member per month payment into an account through MERP that is used for medical expenses during a firefighter's retirement. This is very important and vital to firefighter retirement due to the wear and tear on our bodies and just the stress of our everyday on-the-job career. This medical retirement begins when firefighters retire, which is generally 10 years before we reach Medicare age. So this benefit just bridges the gap until we reach Medicare age and can begin qualifying for that.
So you're like that later 40s, earlier 60s age.
Yep. So generally, the good way to think of it is if a firefighter was to retire between 50 and 55, they would have 15 to 10 years of open market medical insurance payments. This MERP account is a defined benefit for those firefighters. So once they retire, they will receive the exact same amount of money each month to help cover those premiums, as well as medication costs, doctor's visits, and anything that could come up medically in their retirement before they reach that Medicare age.
I think that's a great idea.
Yes.
I mean, we all know how much insurance costs at a regular job. You got to pay $1,200 for just insurance. That's your whole paycheck. So I can definitely see how this would benefit.
Yeah, and I would like to add that it's a little confusing for the public, especially because I've heard some people state that they believe these payments continue into retirement. These payments stop for that firefighter once they hit that retirement age or they actually retire. So the city is no longer on the hook to say for the payments into that MERP account.
Okay, yeah, so as soon as they retire, it all ends anyway. It's just bridging the gap of the...
Yes.
Nice. So this next question was actually kind of along those same lines. What specific impact would the loss of the retirement medical benefits package be on firefighters and their families? And we can clearly see that they would have to literally have a whole job just to pay for their insurance, just for insurance.
Exactly. They would either have to take on another job that has medical benefits or pay completely out of pocket for those insurance premiums.
Right. How common are retirement medical benefits for firefighters in comparable cities? Is the preservation of these benefits standard practice in other fire departments?
Each fire department is unique, but across the board, medical benefits, as well as our retirement benefits in general, have been under attack from cities or city managers that are wanting to take this away from union personnel.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about discretionary spending and kind of the budget, finance, stuff like that, budget priorities. And I know that we don't have the exacts on budget allocations and everything, but kind of a rough estimate of what's happening here. And you're not, and I know you said that they're not taking away from the firefighter from this. They're just not offering, kind of a deal. So with that, what are some discretionary projects that the city has prioritized, albeit over public safety in this case? In your opinion, how much funding has been allocated to these projects and not given to this?
Yeah. A lot of the discretionary projects, city parks, pool repairs, and the regional airports are some of these discretionary projects that aren't necessarily being taken away from the fire department budget, but are taking up money in the city's general fund that could be used to prioritize public safety.
Right, they're just being allocated towards other things where they could be allocated towards more public safety issues.
Yes, and this has a direct impact on every citizen's public safety.
Okay, so flowers at the airport or oxygen tanks for the fire department.
Essentially.
Are these discretionary projects funded by the same budget as firefighter wages and benefits, or are they made separate and paid separate out of separate accounts?
So it all comes out of the city's yearly budget, but they are different line items in that budget. But I would like to add that Lewiston Fire Department drives $3.4 million in revenue back into the general fund. That money is put into the general fund, and it greatly offsets any cost of wage increase, and as well as keeping our MERP benefit into retirement.
So when you say that the Lewiston Fire Department, in essence, makes money.
Exactly.
And the money they make, for some reason, profits from that can't be used towards wages and medical? Is there a block on that some way?
Not that I'm aware of, but they go back into the general fund and then are reallocated across the city.
Based on city or state? Does the state allocate it or does the city allocate it?
City.
Okay.
And that's all set in the yearly budget.
At the beginning of the year?
Yes, sir.
And so then the city does provide transparency over its budget with that first yearly statement of what they're going to do, pretty much allocating everything out.
The city budget is public information, yes.
Okay. What input, if any, have the citizens or other stakeholders had in deciding the discretionary spending priorities for the city? Is there a city council? Do they get to disperse, or who makes those decisions?
It would be the mayor and the Lewiston City Council.
So if we wanted change, then the city council would be a way that we could...
Yeah, I strongly encourage every citizen that has an opinion on the issues at hand, as well as the decisions of any opinion on the decision of the city that the city has made, to reach out to your city council members. We're a small city. These council members take your input to heart, and that is how we can drive change in our city, is reaching out and being proactive with our city council.
So you feel that having the city council be on board with these changes would be a huge benefit?
Yes.
Do you think they're just not aware, or are they?
I think that there's a lack of public engagement to our city council, and from our recent social media campaign, we've been driving people to reach out via email, letter, phone call to our council members and make them aware of their constituents' opinions on the decisions they're making.
What would you say, this is kind of like a hypothetical, what would you say if they did know what was going on, but then we were still having these problems? Would it then be a problem of education, or would there be another underlying issue going on?
I think public education drives a lot of what we do, especially as a fire department. We are in the public all the time, and what we do is win over the hearts and minds of the public in the professionalism we provide. We've helped countless amount of citizens, and now we're calling upon them for our help at the moment.
So let's talk about that, calling upon them to help get the word out and be aware. And then also you kind of calling out on a staffing crisis. You know, you do have an issue there and different things that the fire department has challenges in. How severe is the staffing crisis with the Lewiston Fire Department? How many vacancies are there, and how is this impacting the response times and the service quality of the Lewiston Fire Department?
Yeah, so Lewiston firefighters, right now, a majority of us are working over 300 hours a month. This includes overtime and mandatory overtime. So if they're unable to fill an overtime slot for the following shift, let's say you're on shift, you're supposed to get off at 8 o'clock in the morning, they can't fill that prior to you getting off, then you are forced to stay there for an additional 12 hours as a mandatory overtime personnel.
And they do it by blocks like that?
Yes, 12-hour blocks. This creates excessive amounts of overtime, mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted firefighters. They create a whole host of problems when it comes to outside of the job. Family problems, marital problems. The stress of our career is brought home with us when we're forced to work this much hours. And then a really good example to tie into that question is recently we had a residential structure fire that occurred in the Lewiston Orchards. This fire occurred in the morning prior to our shift exchange. All 16 on-duty firefighters were dispatched and responded to that fire and that incident. During firefighting operations, we had multiple 911 calls that were dispatched. Thankfully, we had firefighters that had showed up for their work or for their shift that day, and they were able to take backup apparatus and cover those 911 calls. If this were to happen during the day, it would fall upon off-duty firefighters being called back into work to cover these emergency calls.
And the time it takes to do that, it kind of, the emergency time goes out the window.
In a career and a profession where seconds matter, this is detrimental to every citizen's public safety.
From car accidents to house fires.
Exactly, but it's not always car accidents and house fires like it is on TV. A large part of what we do is emergency medical services, and we provide the highest level of care in the field prior to arrival in the hospital.
So I know you said that the cost to run has gone up. Has there been a percentage of increase in call volume, or like over the past couple of years, or how's the department managed any surge that may have come, like being low staffed? How do you handle that?
Yeah, so our call volume, not only in the LC Valley, but nationally, has seen a sharp increase, at least in the last 5 to 10 years. In the LC Valley alone, in Lewiston Fire Department, we've seen nearly a 20% increase in emergency responses in the past 5 years. This creates, Lewiston firefighters are one of the highest call per personnel departments in the entire state of Idaho. This is exhausting to our firefighters, and it really shows that we are able to cover calls right now, but we are living on the razor's edge at the moment.
Right, and with those issues at hand, the morale must not be too great. I mean, I would hope morale is still good.
Yeah, we all love showing up to work. For many of us, this is a calling. This is what we believe we were born to do. But showing up to work in the morning and having the dark cloud of uncertainty about your career, given our current negotiations, is very demoralizing. Although I can't speak for each one of my brothers and sisters out there in the Lewiston Fire Department, personally, I have a big fear that this decision on the city's actions in these contract negotiations are going to set a large precedent, not only for future negotiations in the city of Lewiston, but also a precedent for firefighters statewide for their future contract negotiations.
Have you noticed any firefighter, or have you seen any firefighters leave recently, and did they express why they left?
We have had multiple firefighters leave for different departments as well as aeromedical services, i.e. life flight. These firefighters have left the Lewiston Fire Department for better compensation and benefits packages.
What risks does understaffing and high turnover pose to public safety? I know that experience has a lot to do with things.
Yes. So when we're not retaining staff, especially entry-level firefighters, where we can take them under our wing, coach them up, and they grow in the ranks of being a firefighter, then we are greatly losing out on the opportunity for training and experience on the fire ground, and that experience is ultimately what leads to our safety. The staffing crisis at the moment is greatly impacted at all levels, especially since the firefighters that we're losing are more experienced firemen. So we are losing out on those years of experience, those all hazard certifications, everything from hazmat to critical care paramedics.
The next question was going to be, could you give any examples of losing these skilled firefighters, or their, the certified firefighters and different things? You don't have to give a specific, but just like a general example of how.
Yeah. So we recently have had, again, multiple firefighters leave the department to go to neighboring departments for better benefits and better wages.
Right. City leadership and accountability. You would think that people are looking in that are higher up and watching what's going on. Where do you think, where in the city's leadership, mayor, city council members, the city's manager, where do you think the responsibility lies for the decision to reject arbitration, the arbitration outcome, your mediation outcome? Where do you think that's coming down from?
I think it comes down from all city leadership. Let's bring up an example that if you were and I to sign a contract and I was to breach that contract, you would be able to hold me liable in the court system for that contract signed. Essentially, that is what has happened with the Lewiston firefighters in the city of Lewiston. They are not honoring their contract they signed, our collective labor agreement, and that is what has driven us into this campaign and this outreach to the public to get in contact with your city council members and let them know your opinions and that your public safety matters.
When the union has tried to get a hold of somebody, how have the city officials responded to the union's accusations of neglecting public safety because of this? Do they believe that their actions align with the best interests of the community? Like, how are they defending themselves?
The city council? At the moment, we have had little outreach from the city council to the Lewiston Firefighters Union. We have had some responses from the mayor and the Lewiston Tribune in regards to our social media campaigns as well as press releases. I would advise everybody to stay tuned. Friday, 11/22, we will have a opinion column in rebuttal to Mayor Johnston's opinion column previously this week.
Nice. So with that, are there any conflicts of interest or external pressures influencing the city's priorities on this?
I can't speak to any.
You don't know about any outside influences? Yes. Okay. The community impact and public statements, or public sentiment, sorry, not statements, public sentiment. How are Lewiston residents reacting to the firefighters' concerns? Are they aware of the city's refusal to honor the arbitration decision? And if so, what is the general sentiment?
Yeah, we've had fairly unwavering support from our public, which is amazing to see as firefighters. that the community outreach throughout the years in the history of the fire department is really being called upon now at the moment. And to see the love of our community for its firefighters makes showing up to work that much easier every single day, and makes what we're going through that much easier.
So they love their firefighters.
Yes.
Then are they concerned about
Yes.
this safety?
We've had a lot of outreach that people are concerned about the decisions of the city council and the mayor. Fortunately, I can't disclose any of those.
Right.
You know, they're pretty personal messages to us.
Well, if there's people found at fault, then they get elected and then they can be replaced. So I'm sure that the community will.
Yeah, all of our city council members are elected officials, which means that they are here to serve you. They are public servants as well as Lewiston firefighters. So we urge you to get in contact with them and let them know your opinion on the matters at hand.
Now, in the case where it's the city manager in charge, then the city council members don't really have a say and everything's up to the manager. Right?
Well, currently we're in a strong mayor form of government. Yeah. So we have the mayor as the head of the government.
And then the council can make the votes.
Yep, and then the city council is below making votes as well.
How might a protracted legal battle between the city and the union impact taxpayers and community services? Like, let's scratch that one, because that's more. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay, let's go to, so let's talk about more of the broader implications of kind of everything that's going on. How does this dispute reflect larger trends in public safety funding and labor negotiations in small to mid-sized cities? You were saying that other cities kind of do it a little bit differently. So
yeah, each city is unique, but most career fire departments have a labor agreement with the city. They're unions. This allows unions to negotiate fair contracts and holds both parties liable for those contracts.
Right. And then we also want to see this be successful on your behalf, because it would set a precedence to other cities.
Yes.
Say that they wanted to save some money and try to reduce wages or something like that. Yeah, it would definitely set a bad precedence.
Yeah. Nationally, it seems that there is an attack on fire departments and public servants all alike. Our budget is large, and when you look at the numbers, that it may be hard to swallow for people, but these funds are going to serve you. These are your public servants. This is your fire department, and we are your firefighters.
Do you know of any other cities that have flat out refused arbitration or mediation?
In the state of Idaho, this will be the first. So if there were to be a litigation case against this, this lawsuit would be to defend or neglect the binding portion of that fact-finding decision.
And then that is where it could set a precedence for every other city in this.
Exactly. That's where it sets a precedence for every firefighter in the state of Idaho.
Becomes very important at that point.
Yep.
What lessons can other municipalities learn from Lewiston's handling of this situation?
I think there's a lot to learn. Right now, we're in a crisis of uncertainty. Your firefighters are showing up to work uncertain about their career, uncertain about their financial decisions.
What steps is Lewiston Firefighters Local 1773 taking to resolve the impasse and ensure that their concerns are heard? Beyond legal action, are they engaging in public awareness campaigns like you are with us, or other advocacy routes?
Yeah, I would drive people to our Lewiston Firefighters Local 1773 Facebook page. We're undergoing a large social media campaign to raise public awareness about the decisions that the Lewiston City Council and Mayor have made recently. These decisions are very much influencing everybody's day-to-day lives in the city, but we're driving people to become aware of what's happening and just shedding light on that situation.
Does the union have a contingency plan to address the staffing crisis if the city continues to withhold support?
Unfortunately, the staffing is not one of our negotiated terms, but we do think that with the support of the public and the light that is being shed on these situations that we, in the future, could address the staffing crisis that we're facing right now.
Like almost, is it a possibility to pull from what the fire department makes, the revenue that the fire department makes, to allocate some towards new hires or staffing or wages and stuff like that? Can you separate that at all? Would it be a voted on thing?
That would be up to the mayor and the Lewiston City Council.
So it could be heard then?
Yes.
What long-term reforms does the union believe are necessary to prevent similar conflicts in the future? Can we have something in writing so that this does not happen again?
I think the continuation of binding agreements is very important. It allows for fair negotiations to take place and collaborative efforts. And that way, when both parties reach an impasse like we did on wages, it can be sent to a third-party decision, and then both the city and the union can agree upon accepting that decision. This decision that was given to us by the third-party fact-finding committee was in favor of both the city of Lewiston and Lewiston firefighters. Like I said and stated earlier, that Lewiston firefighters are roughly 12% below in compensation. Mm-hmm. We are accepting the fact that we did not get 12% through the fact-finding panel. We are accepting the decision, even though it wasn't greatly in our favor. But
go ahead.
Sorry.
Was that fact-finding panel taking into consideration like the millions of dollars for a park spent?
Yes.
Versus?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the panel takes into consideration all facets of the impacts of their decision.
Kind of makes you wonder. Can the union or the city provide documentation such as the arbitration, that's such a fun word to say, the arbitration agreement? Can the union or the city provide the documentation such as the arbitration agreement, budget breakdowns, or internal communications to verify any claims of conflict?
Yeah, so our collective labor agreement is public information. It is a contract between the City of Lewiston and Lewiston firefighters. City of Lewiston's budgets are public information as well. So we urge citizens to use the Freedom of Information Act to access these documents if they so choose.
Nice. Have any other independent experts, like labor law specialists, public safety analysis, weighed in on the legality or ethicality of the city's actions towards this?
We are currently working with legal experts through the International Association of Firefighters, who very much specialize in labor law.
Okay. More on a personal note, if you want to kind of give us an idea of how our firefighters are feeling. Like, how do they honestly feel about this? I know they want to have a smile when they go on to work.
Mm-hmm. The dark cloud of these negotiations has had a deep impact on every single one of our firefighters. We are overworked, undercompensated, and with the stress of our job, it is immensely overtaking every single one of our lives. Although this is a calling for many of us, and many of us love to go out there and help people, at the end of the day, some days you feel defeated in the fact that you weren't able to come to a conclusion with the city, or the fact that some things didn't go your way during negotiations, but we still show up every single day and help our community. We are here to protect, provide, and serve our community, because we're not just here working in the city of Lewiston. Our firefighters live in the city. We are the community as well.
I want to give you the opportunity to talk to the community, everybody watching right now. What would you like to say to them as a final statement? What would you like to?
Yeah, I would like everybody to reflect and do an honest audit of themselves and of the people they know. How many people do you personally know that would walk through the gates of hell and back into a room so full of smoke and fire and heat that you can't see the hand in front of your face? If you were to call 911, you'd get 16 of those individuals to your door. We are here to serve you. That is the oath we took, and we will come get you. And in our time of need, we need your help at the moment.
I really appreciate you talking with us today, and I really appreciate you getting the word out. We'll do our best to do it too.
Thank you
for
very
sure.
much.
So, there you have it, Elsie Valley. I guess Lewiston in particular. If you want to feel just a little bit safer in knowing that your fire department is being taken care of, I mean, imagine going to a fast food joint and those kids are getting paid more than your firefighter is. The person crawling on their hands and knees in the dark in the smoke searching for you. Go to the city council meeting. Make your voice heard. Tell the council members what you want. Let's take care of those who take care of us.